Hey everybody, KC here. So today we have part 3 of my conversation recorded at the Organic Produce Summit in Monterey, California last week with Robby Cruz, who's the VP of Produce at Target, and Patrick Haines, VP of Produce at UNFI. And here's where we start this particular segment, talking about the fact that retailers have to be activists, right? They can't just be a way station for product. They have to be able to advocate on the part of the product, in the case of organic produce, the growers, to explain to consumers why they're important, why they're a good buy, why they have value. And by the way, I would argue that the notion of being activist is something that retailers should do in every category. You can't just be a way station. You can't just be a place that basically stocks other people's brands. The critical notion of being a retail brand is communicating effectively and advocating for those products. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Robby Cruz and Patrick Haines. Well, a really good retailer should play an activist role, right? I mean, it is not just a really good retailer does not sit there and say, well, I'm the way station for selling other people's brands. I'm a pass-through entity. A really good retailer, which is what you guys are doing, is playing an activist role in terms of just in terms of the choices they're making, in terms of what they're buying, but in how they're shaping consumer perceptions and helping to engineer what goes into the basket.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. One thing that I've learned from the different retailers that I've worked at is strategies are different, right? And if you kind of go in there and you think it's a cookie cutter approach, you're not gonna succeed. And so there's some retailers that are going after value, someone's gonna go after merchandising, someone's all about premium quality that's out there. And so I think it's learning from all those experiences that you've had, learning from our teams. I've had some amazing mentors throughout my 30 years of my career, and I think we as an industry have to continue to do that better. Right? Understanding what happens in the stores, what happens backstage, procurement, supply chain, first mile, second mile, last mile. Like, we just don't do a good enough job of continuing to be advocates for the younger generation that's coming up there. And I think if we do that, I mean, think about this industry. It's July, we're in California, it's 80 degrees outside. Like, this is the place where I want to be. I wouldn't change my job for anything in the world. But that passion that we have, we need to continue to develop that passion for the younger generation as we move forward.
You use the word value, and one of the things that, and I think that this is especially true of smaller retailers that you're dealing with, that they often make the mistake of equating value with price. Low price, and I always think that's a mistake because there's only a few retailers, you're one of them, that can really play the price game, right? Other than that, it seems to me that you've got to play the value game. You've got to be able to talk about the value of the product, the values of the company, the values of the companies that are manufacturing, producing the products, and talk about why the value of great organic produce on a dinner plate is greater than that of a Big Mac, fries, and a Diet Coke, which may cost less money in the moment, but actually is much more problematic in the bigger picture. So how do you communicate the difference between price and value, and how value is more important?
Yeah, I mean, value, or when you think about value, price is a piece, but it's a small piece, I would say. Right. It's going to be like, what is the variety that we're buying? Often, if you were to talk to any of our buyers, and hopefully you guys are hearing this out there as you're talking to my buyers, but we want to give the guest the best at-home eating experience. And are you proud about what you're buying? If your mom went in or your grandma went in and is buying that apple or buying those grapes or buying those berries, would you say that you are the buyer for Target that's buying that for around the country? And so be very specific on what's the varieties that we're growing. Is it having that best at-home eating experience? If we over-deliver on all of that, and then all of a sudden, our guests will become our brand ambassadors. And that's what we want. We want people to walk into Target and say, I had the best blueberries that I've ever had, and they'll become that brand ambassador. And that, to me, is the value that we're looking for versus just always going after price.
But it's also, here, somebody wanted to applaud that out here. But it's also important, listen, I mean, all the fast feeders out there, over the last couple of months, we've seen that, a year ago they were all saying, oh, this is great, we can raise prices as much as we want. And now they're rediscovering their value meals, right? And talking about how that's the best value for the consumer. And it seems to me that that is a competitive argument that the retail, the supermarket industry in general, and specifically this category, I think has to push back against much more aggressively than it does. To say that it's a value meal in name only. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great point. And again, serving a large number of different retailers, as UNFI does, and Robby brought up a great point from his experience in wholesaling, and thank you, because I'm learning it as I go to with a lot of good help, is that each retailer does kind of have their own strategy. And I think we need, in my role and the role of our other team members, to really help influence and shape those strategies of those retailers. We may not be financially invested in them, but they're financially invested in making them as competitive as they can be, and they have to have that value.
By the way, you are financially invested, because they go out of business, you have fewer customers.
No, we can't be successful without them by any means. But to understand their strategy and to help inform their strategy, to help them communicate better this value equation. We have some great examples. I mean, one who's here today, I haven't met him yet, so I hope to see them soon, from Natural Grocers Vitamin Cottage, that has a very clear mission statement. I was so impressed when I visited their stores. Very clear mission statement around providing healthy products for your family, for your body, and they won't carry anything that doesn't really convene exactly with that mission statement. That's kind of rare, to be so specific and so clear and so upfront. But when you do that, I think it really helps set the table and set the path for being successful.
I'm curious, when you both in your jobs and at your different organizations think about innovation, I'm curious how you frame that in your own mind. And to what degree does technology play a role in that?
Yeah, I mean, innovation is the fun part of a buyer's job, right? You're always looking for something new. I think innovation is definitely different as you look at the different categories. Juice, healthy snacking, salads, it's much easier to be innovative because you're trying something different. As you think about like core commodities of like citrus or apples and berries, then it truly comes down to what's the differentiation between all those varieties. And so that's where, for me, as I'm challenging those buyers, it's like, yeah, there's not going to be this new navel orange out there, but is it a specific variety? Is it a specific region that you're growing? Is it the growing practices that vendor has? That is actually the differentiation in that flavor profile that we're looking for. That's the kind of innovation they should be looking for. And then as you think about just even on the convenience side of the business, the guest is continuing to be more and more timed or taxed for time, right? You think about kids, and you either got sports or dance or recitals or something. And so I think part of that value equation that we just asked you is actually helping them have more convenience to be able to still cook for their kids and their family, but also be able to help them with time.
I see innovation, and a lot of innovation in products and product varieties, genetics, et cetera, is very important, but also looking at the innovations in the supply chain, in things that we can do within the process. Everybody here working together to reduce friction in the thing, exactly as our previous speaker discussed, with the food waste and others, moving the product in a timely basis as quickly as we can, kind of making that whole process go as well as it can, and finding technology and innovative ways of doing that, I think, is an important piece of our business.